I'm Hallie Casser-Jayne, and welcome to the Hallie Casser-Jayne Show, a smart, witty, and timely podcast brought to you at a time when Americans are getting fed up with all the shouting and bickering in Washington, D.C. So I, Hallie Casser-Jayne, and veteran White House correspondent Matthew Cooper are here to offer you an insightful, engaging journey into the world of politics, always with a smile and dialogue that snap, crackles, and pops. And with our very special guest, we strive to offer a different take on all things politics in our weekly conversations. So pour yourselves a martini, grab a spot on your favorite sofa, and have a listen as we tackle it all and like to stir and sometimes shake things up. On this episode of the Hallie Casser-Jayne Show, in the continuing saga of the Donald J. Trump presidency, Matt and I talked the testimony of former Trump fixer Michael Cohen, Freedom Caucus Chair Mark Meadows, who proves racism is alive and kicking in the Republican Party, witness intimidation by Republican Florida Representative Matt Gaetz. Does Jim Jordan own a suit with a jacket? Just asking. Louisiana's Clay Higgins. Who has the better hairdo, Trump or North Korea's Kim Jong-un? Does long-standing Israel Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu survive his bribery and fraud charges and live to fight another day? Those stories, and we're just beginning. Here we go. Good morning, Matt. We're recording different and a day late, which I don't know in the history of this show we've done. But you and I agreed that the testimony of Mr. Michael Cohen was well worthy of delaying a taping for a day.
Absolutely.
So did it measure up to your expectations, sir?
I think it did, just as a fascinating window into the Trump organization from Cohen, a fascinating look at how Republicans would respond to it, a look at how Democrats would take advantage of it. I thought it was a wild session. I guess I probably watched a couple hours straight and then the highlights. So I don't think I saw every minute, but I saw a lot, and it was fascinating.
Let's do an overview first, and then we'll break it down. What was your overall view? Was he believable? Did we break new ground? What are your thoughts?
I thought he was believable just because he's made a deal with prosecutors. There's really no incentive for him at this point to commit additional acts of perjury and risk his deal that he's got with the prosecutors and to incur new charges. So for that reason alone, I don't see any incentive for him to lie.
Okay, I agree with you there. In fact, if he did lie and he got caught in lying, and that's a kind of an iffy thing, I want to ask you about that, he winds up going to the pokey forever.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's a couple of years versus, forever. There's just no incentive for him to lie anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you believe the prosecutors are totally corrupt and they're making him lie, but that's that's crazy talk.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So I guess the question becomes then, the Republicans on the committee, how do you think they did? And then I'll tell you what I think.
Well, I thought poorly. I've studied a lot of Watergate, and the Republican efforts to undermine the credibility of Watergate witnesses, including John Dean, was pretty good in real time. That they sort of carefully went through what he said and tried to separate what was conjecture from not. I'll give you an example. For instance, Cohen made a big deal about, at one point in the spring of 2016, around the time when all those Trump officials met with the Russian official, Cohen said, "Oh yeah, I remember that. At that time, Don Jr. went around to the back of Trump's desk at a different meeting and said the meeting is on." Well, that's not very conclusive of anything. I mean, it could be, but it's not proof of anything. That's the kind of thing that if the Republicans were smart, they would have picked apart. Instead, they just basically kept saying, Cohen, you're an admitted liar, so you're a liar. Liar. And they were just so moronic at parts. This congressman from Louisiana.
We're going to talk about him in a second. Oh, wait a minute. Let's just give him his own a couple of minutes here, because that guy freaked me out, darling. I haven't seen a character like that since like a 1970 movie. What we got here is a failure to communicate. So I think in general, the Republicans had some opportunities to, pick Cohen apart. How do you know this? How can you be sure? Take him down a peg or two. But instead, they were just relying on that Jim Jordan guy, who's no Trey Gowdy. You think?
Yeah,
that's for sure. Yeah, one thing that I want to say here is there was an irony in all of this. Each and every one of them is sick with the blind loyalty. I'm talking Republicans that they're holding Michael Cohen to task for. It was a day of the pot's calling the kettle black, and to me, that should have been the headline, because, like you said, they were moronic. It was the same thing, but Matt, what they didn't do was defend the president. Not one of them. And
they never said Trump could never do this.
What does that tell you?
Yeah, I think they just tried to contain the damage as best they could.
I mean, they look like fools, and history's going to treat them like fools. There's no question about that, as far as I'm concerned. Michael Cohen is a very interesting character to me. I'm curious. I'll tell you. The word schlemiel.
Right.
Tell me he is not the definition of schlemiel, and schlemiel is a difficult word to interpret. It's kind of like a fool, right? In a way, kind of a goofy, character, who's not the brightest guy in the room. Is that fair?
Right. Yeah, I'd say that, definitely.
Okay, and the thing about him is that, to me, it was almost sad watching it. That's an emotional reaction versus, my head reaction, because I'm watching this poor guy who really was, just a schlemiel for Trump. And when he finally got wise to being what he had been used for all of those years, he goes to the pokey, and Trump is sitting there with Mr. Kim Jong-un in North Korea. I mean, that made me sad, because I don't, I'm not saying he's a perfectly, nice guy. He obviously had a little bit of a lack of morality, but I don't think he got there because he is such a bad guy as so much as he's a schlemiel.
Yeah, well, Trump, he only hires the best people. I mean, he hires these kind of lifelong, slightly schlemiel guys who are, incredibly devoted to him and, loyal and work there for years, like this guy who came up, Matthew Calamari.
Oh, God.
Who sounds like, a made-up name in a Sopranos episode. But Matthew Calamari started out as like a bodyguard who became a, executive at the Trump organization. And, these guys are lifers, and they're incredibly loyal. And that's what was so interesting, is that Cohen gave you an insight into that culture.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me is, what did Cohen say? You guys are all going to turn around in the long run, and you're going to see what idiots you were too, or
Yes, that is always, I think, a powerful
rebuttal.
And something that sort of has, it has roots in Christianity and elsewhere. I too was a sinner. I've seen the light.
Right.
I've been where you are.
Right. Right.
It has a lot of resonance.
And then there's a report on Twitter. I can't remember who the journalist was. I was a little annoyed about it, because I have a thing about, there are certain things that you really, before you put them out there, maybe you could source it, but she couldn't source it because she said she spoke to somebody in the Republican Party afterwards who, said, "Oy." And, but nobody wants to source it. It's the same story you've been hearing all week, if not longer, about all these Republicans who behind the scenes, I think Adam Schiff is the one who brought it to the, public attention, who they tell you one thing off camera, but they won't go on camera to say it. And I think that needs to fit into the scheme of all of this crazy, that's going on. I want to talk about Mark Meadows. Hello.
Yeah. I mean, I've never really seen a black person used as a prop quite that way.
God. Or allow themselves. Yeah, Uncle Tom, allow yourself. This is 2019, 18, what year are we in? I told you my head's not too great. I mean, what in the world? Talk to, that was the world. Oh, my.
I mean, it would be a stretch, but it'd be one thing if you had a rebuttal witness or something where someone issue a statement, but to have them kind of stand there like, look, here's a black person who likes Trump. It was bad. I'd never seen anything like that.
Well, to me, that was such a low moment. So crazy. But you know what? I bet you his base just loved that to death.
Yeah, well, they all come from super Trumpy districts. That's the world of gerrymandering. So there's just,
Well, yeah, it's like they knew what they were going to do, that they were going to do that,
nobody on that
obviously.
committee, yeah.
I mean, so that, it backfired, but I think it was like a moment that they planned that backfired. And this Tlaib, who I'm not crazy about, this young congresswoman, for her anti-Semitic issues. But I got to say, yikes. She went to town. She had a good time.
She had a lot to work with, yeah.
All right. So, let's do the congressman, that wacko dude. What's his name?
Jim Jordan? Oh, the Louisiana guy?
Oh my God. He was on TV last night too, by the way. Gotta be like, how did he get elected? Who elected that?
You don't see a lot of ecru vests. You see a lot of white suits.
I thought maybe Jim Jordan might, since he doesn't like to wear jackets, he might borrow that from the guy and wear it in lieu of.
This guy is, this guy's an ex-cop. He's sued by his ex-wife for not paying child support. I mean, he's quite an hombre.
If I were walking
But he just kept asking the same question.
Yeah.
Where are all these boxes of evidence? And it's like, I don't know, he didn't seem to understand the FBI had raided Cohen's office and home. They'd taken all these papers. They'd been through them, then they returned them. And that's what was at issue. He kept making it sound like there were all these papers that had been unexamined by prosecutors.
Well, I mean, it was, and he went on to make more of a fool when they, I think it was Chris Cuomo brought him on, and he just went on to make himself more of an idiot. But I think my tweet about him was, if I were a black guy and I was walking down a dark street in the middle of a, heated summer night, he would not be the man that I would want to run into. I mean, he is right out of central casting. I mean, oh my God.
Central casting, and really kind of thick. Yeah.
And you wonder though, and this is a point well worth exploring. Look at who these people are who've been elected by the Republican Party into Congress. It tells me that if you've got a Jim Jordan or a Mark Meadows or this character, and we could go down the list. I mean, Matt, is there a chance for this country? I mean, this is scary, weird stuff. These are people who you would have had nothing to do with 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's it was not an impressive group. I mean, you don't.
I'm just saying that there's something going on in who we're electing, and that in and of itself.
Yeah, you missed the statesman-like qualities of a Darrell Issa.
All right, wise guy.
No, I mean, it's true. It's like, they're just loopy, and they're particularly loopy.
Yeah, let's talk Matt Gaetz as long as we're talking loopy. From down here in Florida, by the way, who has a couple of DUIs and has a history of being not, okay. I have to tell you a story about him, which is, he came to my attention big time because for some reason Chris Cuomo kept having him on his show. Chris likes to have all these weirdos, you know. He has Kellyanne, and he's got the real, you know, and this dude from Louisiana he had last night. It's just whatever. Gates was down here a couple of months ago when all this crap was going on and causing a huge mess at the airport. He's really a fiery kind of weirdo dude. Now he comes out with this serious witness intimidation tweet before.
Right.
Okay. Now I know he's being investigated now by the law enforcement agencies down here. He issued an apology for 24 hours later that was, you know, suspect anyway. What? How does this happen? Who are these people? Why are we doing this? Why are we allowing this? So we can't save this country as long as Matt Gaetzes are out there, you know, drumming up the crazy. You got anything on that?
Well, he's clearly wanted to make himself the most Trumpian in the House.
So that makes him stupid right there. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's all in. He's the most in of anyone, I think. And there's some contenders for that spot. But he but he seems the most in. And you know, with kind of frat boy relish. And I don't get where's the district?
What's his district? I think it's northern Florida. It's like Panhandle.
So it's up in the old Joe Scarborough. Yeah. Well, it's hardcore district, but still, Jesus.
Well, he's more hardcore, by the way, than what's happening down here, because polls are showing down here that there were a lot of people leaving Trump, which is interesting after they just elected, Ron DeSantis.
Right.
But DeSantis is also starting to govern very much from the middle, so he must have inside polling that tells him, because he actually got rid of all of Rick Scott's appointments. They made like 2,000 appointments before he left, and he just and they wiped him out. Strange things going down in Florida.
Yeah, that is an interesting story.
Yeah. So I just
no one had ever really seen an attempt to witness intimidation quite like what
Gates did.
What Gates did, and he's backed off considerably since then. But it took a while, and it took a while for Republicans to do anything about it. And just an expression of the world we're living in at the moment. I
think Congress has to censor him. That's my opinion. I don't think they can let this go.
They shouldn't.
Well, I think if you don't, you'll see more of it. I mean, at some point, somebody's got to say enough. We're not going to put up with this kind of crap. This is, you've gone a bridge too far here.
Yeah.
I want to see what happens with all of that after the dust settles, after today's testimony and everything else. I'm sure a lot of it's going to start to leak. There's a great quote, Peter Wenner, I guess he's a no-Trumper now, but, Commentator magazine. He said it best, I thought. He said the Republicans on the committee tried to destroy the credibility of Cohen's testimony, not because they believe that his testimony is false, because they fear it's true. And I do think that's what's going on here. They're all in so deep. You use that phrase, we're all in. At this point, I think they could be close to panic, as to what's going to happen next. And I'm wondering if you share that.
Yeah, I think unlike with Nixon at this point in Watergate, where a lot of Republicans still believe Nixon, I don't think anyone really believes Trump in terms of what was discussed yesterday. There was not a lot of collusion talk yesterday, but in terms of paying off the Stormy Daniels and all that other stuff, that all, I think it's quite believable to all who sat on the committee. It's just they wanted to destroy Cohen for the purposes of helping Trump. There's so much to get into with Cohen. I mean, it was, first of all, how can you be so stupid as to write a check for your criminal enterprise? I mean,
that was the killer to me. I mean, what?
He's that's even worse than the person on the checkout line at the supermarket who uses a check.
I know who annoys the hell out of you. I mean, I like that. That's it. I mean, that's the thing that I think is so stupid and smart. What? I mean, like weird, like, it really makes you, what do you think, by the way, though, out of everything that you heard yesterday was the most, incriminating? And was that it? The check or, what?
Well, the check's pretty bad because it's criminal. It's a check.
Yeah, it's proof.
It's a proof, and he's still doing it after he's president. So I thought the check was pretty bad. It's so much to work with. The racist stuff was bad. No shock there. I guess the stuff about, don't release my SATs. Sending Cohen after his.
Yeah. I mean, except Obama did the same thing, I have to say. Obama, his college records have been expunged. I mean, nobody can find anything about them.
Right.
Yeah.
Still, something about Michael Cohen calling the Jesuits up at Fordham and threatening them. Listen, Padre.
It's true.
Intro to Psych stays between us.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. I mean, it's pretty crazy. That's for sure. But the other thing, right now, I've said this, I think, before, but I'm going to say it again, but I mean it in spades, right? There is not enough soap in the United States of America to cleanse the trash of what we are and where we are right now. It's just filthy, dirty, disgusting. We are absolutely in, a pool of just disgust. And that's another part of this that I find so amazing, that people are tolerant of this. And I want to talk about tolerant because you and I and a certain group of people are watching this thing and digesting it and, figuring it out. And I'm wondering where has real America just gone, enough? I can't handle another give you another minute of my brain towards this crap, or it's meaningless because it's over and over and over again. Have we just drummed this beat so loud that it's just a beat that's there and no big deal? I'm wondering what your thoughts are about that.
Well, I think you get a lot of people who are fixed in their positions, on Trump, and people who, can just decide that he's great and they're not budging. And then people who decide, or they think what he's doing is great and any personal flaws they'll forgive. And then you get a lot of people who hate the guy. And you got a few persuadables, and we just we'll see what happens with them. You
think there are persuadables?
Yeah, not a lot.
Well, let's talk election. A lot to make a difference?
Well, look, I mean, obviously there's some people who are switching their votes to, who switched their votes from Republican Democrat and changed the House. I think Democrats are helping some of those Republicans and some of those voters in the Midwest who voted for Obama, and then Trump will come back to the fold next time. I mean, there are persuadables, or there are, people who haven't voted. You got to get out. And, But
you don't think they're turned off. So I'm just saying that I think
you think everybody's disgusted with the process.
Oh, I think that everybody is disgusted with the process. I don't have any qualms in saying that. I do think that. I mean, and the craziest like you and I who, live, breathe, and die this stuff. Yeah, we're right in there. But, I was trying to assess myself in all of this, and I'm like, yeah, nothing shocks me. Nothing, we kind of knew all of this, but okay, there's a check now. All right, that's something. Where does any of this lead? Because, if it's true that Mueller's wrapping up his investigation, then I think the big prize, let me say this too. I don't think the big prize is Trump so much anymore. I think, Trump will either go down or he won't go down. I think everybody's wanting, Junior to take a big fall, and maybe Jared. I think the big prize is, is there a story there with Junior? What did Junior know? Let's get after the kids. Let's do them in. I think that's where the people's, going for the blood is, to get Trump's kids.
Well, sure. I mean, I think it's unlikely, that Mueller thinks Trump can be indicted, so he's not going to have, I think there's almost no chance Trump can be indicted here. The question is whether, would the kids and would an impeachment proceeding follow? I think our targets are on the kids, and if there's no indictment of the kids, I think Democrats have set the bar so high.
Yeah, I think they're in a dangerous position myself.
I think we get the end of the day and nobody else besides Manafort and Stone, is indicted. I mean, look, it's been a lot of indictments, but they've set the bar so crazy high that if, that there aren't more super senior people, then I think it's going to.
Well, I think your point is well taken, and I was going to say, collusion, which has always been mishandled by everybody because collusion in and of itself, right, it is not illegal. It's this, did you conspire? And of course, it was all that Roger Cohen stuff that happened yesterday, and that all is weird. If you don't have collusion, then what the Republicans are going to say, even if this guy turns out to be the crook of all crooks. And after all, Nixon was a crook.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was enough to throw the country into schisms because the president of the United States, Richard Nixon, was a crook. If it turns out that Trump is a crook, this is 2019. It's like, so he's a crook. We have come a long way, not
right.
Baby.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the Nixon built to a crescendo with the tapes because the tapes were so crazy.
Right.
I don't think anyone imagined how just gonzo the tapes were.
There are tapes here, though.
Yeah.
There are. What did he say? 100 tapes?
Yeah.
So there are tapes.
Right, his own tapes.
Right. So, Michael Cohen's tapes I'm talking about. And he's got the president. You are listening to the Hallie Casser-Jayne Show. The Hallie Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern at HallieCasser-Jayne.com and is available wherever you listen to your podcasts. Be sure to find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Overcast on all your favorite apps. You can find the Hallie Casser-Jayne Show on your Alexa device, too. Just say the Hallie Casser-Jayne Show. Oh, and come play with me on Twitter at the Hallie CJ Show. Something that's not discussed, and I think we should discuss. It seems to me that, because of the situation with Trump being such a crook and trying to control, the Justice Department, et cetera, and all that kind of obstruction of justice stuff. That, okay, so we're all aware of the fact that what Mueller has done to, and Andy McCabe, maybe we bring him in at this point, is to farm out a lot of the story and a lot of the investigation to other districts so that, if they shut down justice, whatever, it goes there. I think that in of itself is a story that is not getting enough play because what it's saying is, oh yeah, we got Trump. But because of the precedent, if you will, because I've spoken to a lot of legal Spiegel kind of people who have said to me, it really doesn't hold up. You really can indict a sitting president. It just hasn't been spun. It hasn't been tested. It was department, thought, protocol, policy,
right, yeah.
Whatever. But that doesn't make it legal. It's just policy. That. Isn't Mueller sending it to, New York and sending it to these other districts? Doesn't that tell you something?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What?
I mean, I think it's, I think this goes, this doesn't get shut down when Mueller gets shut down.
And
Mueller ends, but it keeps going.
Okay. But, so what is Mueller saying? We have a criminal. Maybe not somebody who committed collusion with the Russians, but we do have a criminal in office. Is that the message that you derive from that? Not to make me sound like I'm an idiot. I just think that has to be defined for people as to why Mueller would have done that and what it is that he's got over in, SDN.
Well, I guess the more charitable definition is there's stuff that might be criminal.
Okay, charitable. You be charitable. I'm beyond charitable at this point. I mean, but that's it. So I want to get back to what I said earlier, Matt, which is Okay, so they set the bar so high on this collusion thing. It used to be you only had to be a crook to be, Spiro Agnew or whatever to be, thrown out of office or
right. Now you got to be in right. Now you need Russian hookers peeing on you.
Well, there you
yeah. And right. And Vladimir thanking you.
Yeah. So I think it's a good thing. It's a good measure to put it in that perspective. And that's why I said also earlier, I think people are just numb. And what happens is, it's like I have a bad cut or I have a very bad cut. Okay, I cut myself.
Right.
Yeah. And I think this is dangerous for the Dems, but I think it's more dangerous for the country.
Yeah, you don't want to set the bar so high that, a lot of criminal activity is treated as routine.
So there you go. And I think that's what's happening here. And that's upsetting to me. This is because I just have to add, this is like almost personal between you and I because, the journalist, the BuzzFeed story. Remember that BuzzFeed story? That was, that Mueller actually came out and said, no, that's not true, which was about the fact that, Trump had just, told Cohen to lie.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Looks like he did, but I thought there was some slight, catch in there in which it was technically
the BuzzFeed
but
story,
the gist of it was true.
Because the BuzzFeed story, I think, was specific to, yes, he did Trump told Cohen to lie. And that's not what Cohen said yesterday. So Cohen yesterday said, which, of course, he was stupid about writing checks to Trump, but he was smart enough to say, I better not put this in verbal,
Right. That's the thing about Trump is the window into him is that sometimes he's careful to avoid explicitly breaking the law and then other times oblivious to it.
Well, because if you watch him in his day-to-day, he can be very sharp at 1 minute and the next minute he goes off into la-la land. I mean, that's what people are saying that's so weird about dealing with him. Which Trump, it's almost like, somebody who has Alzheimer's where I would say Alzheimer's is like the tape's gone bad in the brain.
Right.
And the initial stages of Alzheimer are, you have little skips, if you have an old video, audio tape.
Yeah, a little scratchy.
A little scratchy, and then it goes and it keeps getting worse. And it's almost as if that's what you see with him because you don't know what you're going to get from the minute to the next minute. Yada, yada, yada. And I think that's an interesting thing to put in the mix of what we're talking about, which is what makes him so hard, to do. But I also don't think the press is doing, its best job on this. I think they don't get it. Can I bring up one other thing that came out yesterday that I thought was, it kind of struck me.
Sure, please.
And that was the thing that he said about lying to the First Lady, that Cohen said about lying to the First Lady, about the affair.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'd forgotten about that.
Where's Melania today? Jeez.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, no, there's a lot she's heard in the last year or two. Right? I mean, not just, Stormy Daniels, but the People magazine reporter who he kind of assaulted Mar-a-Lago while Melania's pregnant. I mean,
Jesus.
Of course, the Access Hollywood tape, everything else.
He didn't give that moment yesterday to talk about what a wonderful woman and what a sweet, kind woman she was, and that he felt badly about having lied to her for no reason, though. That just wasn't a feel-good moment. That was the ultimate kick at Trump, because he's going to do to him what Trump is trying to do to his marriage. That's the kind of subtlety with Cohen, that the opposite of his Schlemiel side, that was cunning and that was deliberate. Yeah. And I don't think it got enough play because I thought he handled himself very gentlemanly through most of it.
Yeah. I'm not sure Trump heard about it or he would have been more visibly angry.
Oh, I think he will be. I don't think this is over. I just don't think he could do it.
He will be. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he could do or say because he was sitting in the middle of, his little tete-a-tete with,
right.
Yeah, in North Korea. So I don't think
Right.
but I think that moment was so personal and such
Totally.
and it was and it was a response, by the way, to the
Yes.
threat. Right, thank you. Hello.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I thought that
No, that's a good point.
yeah, I thought that was too many people let that one go, and that was it. And of course, "my loyalty to Trump has cost me everything" line, I think was killer for anybody who was watching that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this applies to you, Republicans, right?
So let's talk Roger Cohen just for a minute, because this part of it does intrigue me. First of all, Roger Cohen yesterday may have broken his gag order when he responded to...
Right, he had someone else respond. It was, that seemed like a gag violation.
So what's your take on all of this with the, talking to whether he talked to WikiLeaks or he didn't, or whether, where are you on that? I mean, I think that's part of the muddy yuck stuff, that's happened because so much has come at us. But that Roger Stone and Julian Assange and WikiLeaks and who talked to who, and what do you think?
Well, that's the synapse. That's the pipe to the Russians. So that's kind of where a lot of this, if there is a collusion case, that's where a lot of it's going to come from, as well as these other weird direct meetings, between Butina or the Ukraine or the other or the Trump Tower or whatever. It's going to be through WikiLeaks. And so, Stone's current line, "Hey, I was just hyping my involvement with WikiLeaks. I don't know no WikiLeaks. I just said that."
That is very weird and very muddy, all of that. Let's just put that out there. I want to put one other name out there before we get off of this, and Weisselberg.
Oh, yeah, well.
Because that, darling, turns out like reporting has been completely wrong on him. There is no
about
deal.
What he knows.
Or that he's made a real deal, or that he's talking, because today's like, no, he's not singing at all. What do you think? What's the story there?
Yeah, well, I had been under the impression that there was a deal. That's what had been reported, and that would, obviously be very interesting because he's the money guy and presumably knows where things went in a way that's even more detailed than what Cohen knows. But if he doesn't have a deal, then we'll just have to see what we find out.
But it's interesting because he's at the core of all of this.
Oh, totally. He's a lifer. He's been there a lot longer than
Trump,
than Cohen. I mean, he goes back to the old man,
right?
And he presumably knows where all the bodies are buried. Maybe literally.
I think literally, and I'm wondering why he hasn't been indicted, or because he was the one who was playing with the numbers and stuff.
Well, that's.
I mean, his name has basically been out of it, and I find that interesting and odd.
Yeah, I mean, they got a big revamp yesterday because of Cohen, and I can't imagine he's not going to get called in pretty soon to testify.
Which would say to you, maybe Mueller's not as done as everybody thinks he's done.
Indictment or not.
Right.
Right. I don't think he's as done as people say. He's just got so many balls in the air.
Who knows what those balls are? Because every day it's
But I mean, a week ago there was all this. Oh, he's wrapping up.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't say that. Yeah,
it just doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
It just keeps. I mean, until he can get Stone to flip or one more good flip,
I would think. But who knows? I mean, but who knows? It's, it's a parlor game, guessing game, whatever. Can I bring up a person's name? I want to bring this person's name up because you know what? He's such an idiot. CNN worries me. I mean, things are going on over there that I don't get. But why is Rick Santorum out there talking? What does this man on any level have to offer to the conversation?
I don't know. He hasn't been a senator for over 12 years. He's had a couple of feeble presidential attempts. He's just not a big deal, and they sort of keep him there, frozen in amber.
And he makes and he's just an acolyte. I mean, he's just, I'm in love with Trump.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, he's had a couple of moderately interesting touch points in his career, but it's like,
he just doesn't strike me as the brightest light bulb in the room. And
No, but I don't get a lot of CNN. I don't get a lot of who they hire.
Yeah, no, CNN is going through, they're trying to position themselves in the center. We got somebody from the right. We got some, in these times, it's just not working. It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work.
Right. And they're not even getting good people, by the way. If you're going to have a Republican on, they get Lindsey Graham on. Do you know what I'm saying? They're like going to the low.
Yeah, they're going to low hanging fruit. Yeah, it's just weak.
Yeah, it's very, very weak, and it's very, very stupid. The only two people they have, Carl Bernstein and, what's his name from, Yale, Gergen and they have what's his name from Watergate, John Dean, who I've had on the show and who's a delightful man.
Right.
That's the only reason I turned them on, because at that point, after that, there's nothing. Okay, so I can't. You know what? 2.5 years almost in, and I still have a problem saying the president.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Trump and his bone spurs go to Vietnam.
Yes, he finally made it to Vietnam.
Okay. I just, he
finally arrived.
He arrived, and what a strange story from end to end. First of all, Trump has toned down his hairstyle, if you hadn't noticed a little bit. He's not quite as orange.
Oh, that's good.
By the same, so has Kim Jong-un. He doesn't look so wild. His hair has been cropped a little bit better.
That's good. Well, I was surprising what happened there.
Well, talk to us. What happened there?
Well, the president this Thursday morning, U.S. time, I guess we were learning that the president had left the summit. They didn't get an agreement. They didn't sign anything. They just called it quits. Both he and Kim put a good face on it, said they were still friends and would keep talking, but that they had not reached any agreement on ending or diminishing U.S. sanctions or destroying North Korean missile facilities. So, it ended early, which I don't think a lot of people saw coming after the first meeting had been such a love-in. Reports were that Pompeo, was the hardliner and kind of convinced Trump to walk away at that point. I'm sure Trump will still get taken to the cleaners at a later date.
Before they even get there, though, they made a statement that they were going to change the policy, which was that they weren't going to require North Korea to validate any of their sites. What?
Yeah, that seemed crazy. That seemed nuts. It was a weird few days. Trump kept saying North Korea can be an economic powerhouse. He kept saying that you can be a powerhouse. He seemed unaware that Vietnam was a communist country.
First of all, he likes communist countries. I mean, and you brought that up. I mean, remember him, he defends MBS and he defends Putin. And then yesterday he was defending, Kim Jong-un on the murder of base. What? At what point do people not go, huh?
Oh, yeah. After Trump had put in all that time about Otto Warmbier, the American was, beaten within an inch of his life in North Korea and then died on U.S. Soil. I mean, today he's like, whatever.
Same with MBS.
Yeah.
What does that say to you?
He likes the strongmen.
Yeah, what is that? What is that? That's so weird. Think how weird that is. No?
It's not.
You don't think it's weird? That an American president aligns himself with every strong man in the world. The only one they're not aligning themselves with is in Venezuela, and that's because they need the vote in Miami.
Right. No, no, it is weird. It's not weird for Trump, but it's weird for the American presidency.
Yeah, right there, you wonder what's going on in that Republican Party that they continue to stand there and put up with all of this stuff.
I know this, Michigas. I know it's crazy. Well, let's just hope.
Hope what?
Things stay kind of stable for a while. No new missile tests out of North Korea. No crazy run-ins with Chinese ships. Let's just hope everybody stays chill.
Yeah, well, good luck with that. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I just don't. And the only other thought that crossed my mind on the North Korea thing is the way it ended. I wonder if Trump was just so out of sorts, he just took it out on old Kim Jong-un, and he said, I got to get home to the United States and clear up this mess because, right now the stage is Michael Cohen's. There's that too.
Totally possible.
Right? Yeah. Could
or
be.
He feels like he's dealing with the health inspector in Atlantic County, New Jersey, and if he walks out of the room, he'll get what he wants.
You could have used could be. I just want to go back to that there. That could have been
could be.
Thank you. I had my could be for the show.
You get your could be.
Thank you. Oh God, I needed my. Oh, it's been 2 weeks. I needed my could be. Could be. Oh my God, I needed my could be. So, what did I miss? There was something in my head that I missed that I wanted to bring up. What do you think we missed? We did miss something. It's like blinking, and I can't get to it.
And all the comings and goings this week.
Netanyahu. That's who we missed.
Yeah, Bibi. Cozying up to some. Yeah.
Go talk to me. There's a lot here. There's a lot to this story.
Right. Well, Bibi, you need a coalition to be, take office as prime minister. And in Israel, there are many parties and a lot of small parties, and you got to round up a pretty big group of them. And Bibi was reaching out to some really racist parties and was getting a lot of grief for that.
That's part of the story. The other is he's about to be indicted today.
Oh, that too, yeah. Is it today?
That's the reportage is that they thought it was going to come down today. And
I don't really understand the crime.
There isn't a crime.
It's like a bribery. It's financial.
It was the news guy, that we'll do this for you if you do this for us. Kind of quid pro quo. It wasn't Adelson, but it was whatever. Yeah. Look, they were going after him. This is how they can't get somebody out of power who's been in power for as long as he has. They go after the wife. They indict the wife because she, buys food.
Right.
I mean, come on. I mean, at what point do you say, look, you guys are trying to do something here and you're reaching. He's had a long run, Mr. Netanyahu. And big run. And frankly, I was a fan of his because I think he kept things in tow. Because it's, you can't treat Israel like it's the rest of the world because it's not America. It's not. It's got different kind of enemies and yada, yada, yada. And I thought he did a good job. Maybe he's a man whose time is, overdue to leave the stage. I don't know. That's all that he had left. He didn't, in terms of who he was going to align with, everybody else had kind of ditched him, because that's what happens in politics. You stay in a long time and eventually it all changes and the young ones come up and, they start to make noise and whatever. And in this world that we live in, that's not just in the United States where we got crazy going on. It's every country in the world. I think the response, what's happening in Israel is reflective of what's happening in Germany and every place else. I hate to see him go. And I think, I don't know if he has any more rabbits to pull out of his hat. I do hate to see him go because I just think not now, not when it's all so crazy and anti-Semitism is so on the rise and maybe I'm too far to the right. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't know. I don't think, look, on one hand, Israel's had a tremendous economic, resurgent, under his watch. I'm not in some ways its international standing is better than it's been, with a lot more ties to Africa and other things. In other ways, it's worse. I don't think the security situation with Gaza or the West Bank is great. And
what do you mean by the security situation? You mean what? Better be more specific there.
Well, I mean, ultimately, he's, it depends if you really think Israel's going to survive as a Jewish democracy by keeping millions of Arabs under the Israeli flag. But the Netanyahu bet is that eventually they'll just kind of give up steam and they'll be happy to live like Puerto Rico. They'll just be part of the country. But they won't vote. And that'll be the happy ending. I don't think that's likely to happen. But in any event, he's been a force for more than a generation. It's an incredibly long run in politics. He's outlasted a lot of his enemies. It's been a long run.
Yeah, it has been a long run. And I guess I would say to you, in terms of what happens there, I think, because of the way we are here, we tend to look at these things as beginning, middle, and end. I don't think you can do that with the Middle East and with Israel. I think you have to look at it as where we are today, because that's all we have.
Right.
So that, whatever your policy might be on the West Bank, or your policy in Gaza, it's where we are today. We can only deal with that because it's just such a fluid situation. And, from minute to minute, we don't know what's going on. That's why I said, I think the reason that he's survived as long as I think he has is because he has been so, cognizant of that. And, he has to deal with what he's got right now. Keeping it at bay. Look, a lot has gotten better because of the stall for time. Do you know what I'm saying? I think that has to be put into the mix of any conversation you have about Israel. Cause, the crazies are coming into the 21st, at least the 20th century, if not the 21st. In which case you have a better opportunity to make a deal that's good for everybody. I don't think he could have done that, even, back when Clinton, tried so hard and almost got there. I think it was too soon. I think it's just too soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you lose him from that stage, you get the young uns and I'm not sure that they have the same picture that, I don't know, wisdom has when you've been around for as long as he has, coming up from a time when it was so different. Anyway, I don't know. We'll have to talk about that more because I think that's worth having a conversation about. And I would also say to you that the part of that conversation at some point has to be also about, the U.S.'s involvement in all of that. It's a complex issue. It never goes away. Okay, so did I miss anything, Derek? Anything you wanted to say?
I think we hit all the top buttons.
I think we did, and I missed you. So it was so nice to have you back.
Yeah, yes, nice to be back.
We had a really fun show. I don't know if you listened to it, but anybody who hasn't, if you're sick of politics, go back and listen to me and Richard Roper from the Sun Times and my dear friend Charlie Mathau.
Yeah.
But go back and listen because we had a great Academy Award show, and as we do every year, we sit there and we talk and we have our thing. And so until next week, my friend.
Next week.
I hope all is well for you when you have a delicious, delicious following.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Talk to you later. Bye. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Hallie Casser-Jayne Show. The Hallie Casser-Jayne Show is a production of Resec, LLC. Be sure to tune in to the Hallie Casser-Jayne Show at HallieCasserJayne.com or listen on your favorite app. New podcasts are posted Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern.